How do you sell something that is really intangible when the result that you help your clients with isn't something that is necessarily measurable and a very, very specific outcome, but what you do is actually kind of hard to explain because it is intangible and it's not that easy. How do you go about this? That's exactly what I want to talk about today, because I feel like this is a very common thing that I see more and more in this industry, in the coaching industry, every single day. And what happens is that a lot of the old bro marketing, marketers, coaches were teaching you that the only way for you to make sales, the only way for you to get people to pay high ticket prices to hire you right now was if you did something that was very tangible and measurable and specific and like this very, very clear outcome that you could just like pinpoint it, right? But the result of that is we've seen a lot of coaches that are spiritual or life or mindset coaches or just breakthrough transformational coaches selling things like helping clients get 10K months. And it's really absurd because number one, you sound like everybody else. I feel like at this point, I don't know what you feel like, but I feel like at this point, anytime I see a coach saying that they're selling 10K months, helping you achieve 10K months or six figures a year or whatever, I want to roll my eyes. And I'm sure that there's cases of people that are actually really, really, really good at that, but it feels like a phrase, almost like live your best life, right? Where it's very generic and okay, everybody's saying the same thing. That's what 10K months feel like to me. So what happened is last week I was on a brand message assessment. If you don't know what this is, these are 15-minute calls that I do with people where I look at their messaging, I look at their content, I look at their marketing, and I give them strategies to optimize their messaging and all the things to be able to attract better quality leads. You can book it at brandmessagesession.com, by the way. So I'm on a call last week talking to somebody who is a very spiritual coach. You can tell by the way in which he speaks, by the way in which he shows up, by reading his content, I could tell that the core of his business was something very spiritual. Yet despite that, the whole message was, I'm going to help you get to 10K months and there's an ROI, like there's a guarantee and I'm going to work with you until you get this result. And he was telling me, Fabi, I feel like there's something out of alignment. And it was so funny to me because the moment that I looked at the website, I knew exactly what was out of alignment and why things weren't necessarily working for this person as they expected. And it had to do with the fact that he was giving an outcome or selling an outcome that wasn't really what he was about, right? And what happens is that in this case or in other cases is that you're selling something because you think it will be the thing that works, right? You're like, well, it makes sense. It's logical. Money-making offer feels like the easiest thing. I don't think that it is. I think that the world that we live in right now, actually, it's so much harder for you to make money with a money-making offer. So this is why you see like these manifestation coaches that are teaching you how to make more money, or business and sales and all of these different coaches that are focused so much on money making and all of these types of activities, actually struggling to make sales more than the rest of the people, if that makes sense, right? It's because it's actually harder. There's too much competition. There's too much noise in the market from people selling that. So what happens as well is that when you turn to a money-making offer as your, and I'm using this as an example, right? By the way, right? So, because maybe what you do is something intangible and it's not necessarily that you went in that direction, but I do see it happening often. But my point is that when you're selling something and you're trying to use a very tangible, measurable outcome, but it doesn't feel like what you really want to say, what happens is that things feel out of alignment. And the consequence of things feeling out of alignment is that without even realizing it, you're sabotaging your business in a way, right? So you're not necessarily, I mean, yes, maybe you're taking all the action and you're doing, your live webinars or your live launches and your 5-day challenges and you're sending the emails and you're doing sales calls. But in the bottom, there's this sense of unease, right? Something feels off and something doesn't feel like you. There's a sense of inauthenticity in your voice and in your message. And you're like, but no, this is the thing that works. So this is what I need to do. And, the funny thing is that this is really a belief at the end of the day that I feel is completely off. It's completely wrong, because if you think about it, coaches like Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, Joe Dispenza, well, I guess Joe is not necessarily a coach, right? But what they do is not really tangible. Like, go look at these websites. Please go look at their header on their websites. You're going to see, even Marie Forleo, by the way, it doesn't sound as a tangible thing, right? So you don't need to sell something tangible. What you need is to have a lot of clarity around, how will my audience's lives be better? How will their life improve with the work that we're doing together? Now, what you want to avoid is going in this excessive fluff. Like, I'm going to help you reveal your inner goddess and elevate the sensations of, like, what? What are you saying? What does that mean, right? We want to ground that to something that is very simple for your audience to understand. So the first question that you need to ask yourself when you're doing something very intangible is, what is the problem? What is the problem that my audience is experiencing? What is it? And there's two ways of viewing problems. One is how your audience views the problem, and another one is how you view their problem. So, for example, I'm going to use myself as an example in this, right? So for my audience, they might view the problem that they're not making enough sales, or they're at an income plateau, or that their sales call conversions are really low, or they're not getting engagement on content that they're sharing. They're not getting real traction, and it's something in their message is not, or not, they won't say message probably, but they would feel like their marketing isn't giving them the results that they want. That's what they view the problem like. It's very specific, right? My income has plateaued. My webinar isn't converting the same way. My sales calls, like, I have a very low sales call conversion rate. I have a lot of no-shows in my sale, like on my calls, people book the call and then they don't show up, or I put out an offer, nobody buys. Those are very specific things. That's how they view the problem. How I view the problem is that it's not a marketing issue, it's a messaging issue. Something in your message is causing you to attract these types of people and have these types of results, right? There's something off in your message. But if I even go deeper, for me, it would be like, yes, something in your message is off, but also the lack of alignment in that message, the lack of really feeling authentic in what you're sharing is causing all of these things. So there's a difference between how you view the problem versus how they view the problem. And what you want to have a lot of clarity on when you're creating content and you're positioning your offer, or you're positioning the outcome, or trying to come up with a one-liner, we'll get into that in a second, it's really understanding, how does my audience view the problem? What is the problem? Number one, that's number one question that you need to ask yourself. What is the actual problem? Because feeling out of alignment or disconnected from self is maybe how you view the problem, but that's not necessarily how your audience views the problem, if that makes sense, right? So a good example of this would be like, being disconnected from self as the reason, or actually, no, let me use this one. It's like you're self-sabotaging yourself from weight loss is maybe how you would view the problem, but your audience would view it as, my metabolism is wrong and I'm not losing weight. Something is wrong with my body and that's why I'm not losing weight, right? So you have to get very clear on, how does your audience view the problem? What is the problem and how do they view the problem? And what tends to happen is that people really overcomplicate things. Like, they will put out every possible outcome imaginable, right? It's like, I'm going to help you do this, and I'm going to help you do that, and I'm going to help you regulate your nervous system. I'm going to help you, increase your vibration, and I'm going to help you overcome limiting beliefs. And it's like, whoa, this is a lot. This is a lot. There has to be a perspective that unifies these things and that simplifies them. Or the other thing that people do, unfortunately, is that they try to justify the price through measurable results, right? So you're like, well, okay, I want to charge 10K for this, but the only way that people will pay 10K for something intangible is if I make it tangible. So let me go ahead and say that because of the work that we're going to do together, you're going to make more money. And now you've become a money-making coach, right? So I think this is really important. Yes, the outcome of the outcome of the outcome could very well be that your audience is going to make more money, sure, but is that really what you want to say? Is that really what you want to communicate? What is the actual authentic thing that you want to say? And I think it's really important for you to have clarity on this and for you to take a stand on that, behind that, or like really say, okay, you know what? This is what I'm about. This is what I stand for. And I want to just say that. Get honest with yourself, because it's when you go into a place of true alignment and true authenticity and true just flow, everything is going to work differently in your business and it's going to be more sustainable. It's easy to think, well, I'm going to make more sales, maybe in the short term. But what you're going to start experiencing if you're using measurable outcomes, and it's not really what you do, right? What you're going to start to experience is that in the long term, it's going to lead you to burnout. You're not going to be excited in your business. Your clients are going to be frustrated when they don't get that result because that's not really what you do. So you're promising something because it's like the outcome of the outcome, right? I'm going to help you make more money, or I'm going to help you lose more weight, or whatever that is. And your audiences or your clients are not necessarily going to get that result. They're going to get other results, but not necessarily that one. And what happens is that that's going to lead you to frustration. It's going to lead the clients to frustration. And instead, you need to just take a stand for what it is that you actually do. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that you have to communicate this way or that way. And instead, just say what you want to say and ground it so that it's simple for them to understand. So it's like, if you're helping people be more aligned, well, what is the outcome of being aligned? What is the result of that? Like, how does that disconnection affect their lives, right? How is resistance showing up in their lives? Like, is it that they're not going live on Facebook, or they're not sending the emails, or they're not making offers, or they launch and then mid-launch, when they haven't made the sales that they expected, they cancel the launch? How is lack of alignment showing up in their lives? Like, get specific on what is the consequence of the problem and what is the outcome of solving that, right? The more specific that you could get, the better. And more than that, it's really about understanding, okay, what do I want to say? Again, what feels good to me? What feels powerful to me? And this is why I believe that having a lot of clarity on the angle of mastery is very important. So if you've never heard me talk about that angle of mastery before, angle of mastery is a concept that I came up with, which basically describes, like, how do you reveal your expertise? How do you reveal what you do in a way that feels unique? And it feels different, and it feels like I've never heard that before. And it's not about like this is basically this is about your big idea. This is your premise. It's not about what makes you different. Like, it's not me saying, well, I did an MBA, or I lived in India. Story for another day, but I did live in India. Or I have, I did a specialization in branding, and you should hire me because I have 1 million followers. Or what? It's not about that. It's about, what about your process is unique, and what about your process is the thing that's going to help your clients solve the problem that they have. I actually do have a training that explains the angle of mastery in more detail, and I kind of go into it. You can find it at angleofmastery.com. So my point to this is that when you're able to really find that angle, that perspective, that point of view, that premise that is only yours, that's what you want your content to go around, right? Like, that needs to be at the core of the things that you're doing, so that you're communicating your value and you're showing people what makes you different. But don't think that you have to fall for the measurable to do that. It doesn't have to be measurable, but what it does need to be is clear. It still needs to be compelling. It still needs to speak to your audience in a way that makes them feel like, that's me. That is 100% me. Part of the issue, though, and I'll end with this, is that oftentimes people get so stuck on the one-liner, right? Like their elevator pitch. When was the last time that you were stuck in an elevator with your ideal audience? Does not happen very often. And I think that people worry about having this perfect one-liner, and if they don't say it exactly right and they don't memorize it to perfection, they're not going to land a client. And the truth is that that doesn't exist in the world that we live in anymore, because for anytime that you're sharing that one-liner, there's always going to be context that's going to be shared with it. Meaning, There's going to be content. There's going to be opportunities for you to talk about the problems your audience has, the mistakes that they're making, your angle of mastery, all of these different things, the outcome that you help your clients with. So worrying about that one-liner is the silliest thing in the world. Instead, it's about, okay, what do I do? How do I express what I do? How do I show people what I do in a way that is clear, that is simple, that is grounded, and that is aligned with them and with me, and it feels good to me, so that you can get behind selling it and you can get behind your business in every possible way and feel excited about what you're doing. So I hope that this was helpful. Make sure that you follow me on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Share this with anybody if it's helpful with them, and I will see you in another episode.